Hi, my name's Zachary, and 1,715 days ago, I started my first indie game. Though I didn't know it at the time, I would be spending the next 4 years bringing this project to life. Like many creative projects, it started out pretty simple, but with plenty of time and inexperience, it ballooned into the game that is now known as Garbanzo Quest. Since it was my first big project, I didn't really know what I was doing for like the first half of it, so the game naturally experienced many challenges and changes throughout. There is one thing I did right from the start though, source control. If you don't know what that is, all you need to know is that I can go back to any day in the development process and show you what the game looked like. That makes it really easy to follow the game's development and dissect exactly how the game became what it is today. I'm very excited to take you on the journey, starting from the humble beginnings of day 1 all the way to the big release on day 1,350. 4 years is a long time, so I'm sure there's plenty of things that not even I remember doing. Real quick before we start, I'd just like to make a quick shout out to my patrons. It's your support that helps make these videos and my games possible. More info on how to show your support at the end of the video. So, this is December 24th, the year 2020. Day 1 of my first indie game. It might not look like much, but I promise there's a lot more going on here than at first glance. Let me explain. So, at this time, I still had a full-time job. I worked as a full-stack web developer for a hospital. It was also COVID during this time, so things were pretty crazy. I did a lot of different things, but most notably, I designed and maintained the website for getting signed up for COVID testing. I felt good about the work I was doing there, but if you know anything about American healthcare, you'll know that it's a huge mess. Needless to say, I grew very tired of this situation and chose to escape into something easier outside of work hours. So, in my free time, I decided to tinker with making my own engine using the monogame framework. If you've ever played Celeste or Stardew Valley, they used the same thing to make their games. I really didn't have any sort of genre or themes in mind when I started this. I was just having fun messing around. I've tried working with pre-built engines before, but I always just found the user interface clunky and slow to work with. There's something I love about just writing a few simple lines of code and seeing a little guy on the screen. Pre-built engine or not, you're gonna end up writing some custom tooling for your project, so that's what I worked on for most of January. This being my first time doing anything like this, it felt really cool to make my own tile editor. All this stuff before was just like magic to me, so it felt like I was unlocking something in my brain implementing these kinds of things myself. February 2021 rolls by and, is that who I think it is? That's my boy! It's Garbanzo! You don't understand. No one loves Garbanzo Quest as much as I do. This is like witnessing the birth of my own first child. Just look at him. He's so beautiful. What was once just another piece of temp art became the core of the whole game. Garbanzo really didn't change much from here. There were a few attempts to come up with something better, but nothing could quite compete with the simple beauty of this little bean man. Just look at him go! He's jumping around! Less than 50 days in, and we've already established our main character and genre. Wow. Not much time passes before Garbanzo is coming to life. Pretty quickly, he's becoming animated, talking to friends, and spitting on things. To this day, he's not known for much else. The months roll by, and more stuff is added when I find the time for my busy job. We're finally starting to get something that you can actually play. We got enemies and multiple rooms to run through. We're even beginning to witness the snowy theme that is so prevalent in the final game. Fast forward to July 2021, and we're greeted with yet another familiar face, Rocky. She's a very simple boss enemy. All she does is try to jump on you. This is another example of something that barely changed at all in the final game. I had fun adding this boss, so I made a few more. This build has the most gameplay so far. You're trapped in this dirt basement and you have to collect these wads of cash by defeating different bosses. The game is almost resembling a Metroidvania at this moment. The concept is interesting, but doesn't last very long. September arrives, and it's at this point I'm starting to run out of steam. I was just so sick of my job. American healthcare was driving me crazy. At first, I looked around for new jobs. Job hunting is a bit of a grind, so it wasn't easy. Eventually, I heard back from a startup. I don't really remember what they were doing, something about an app for pregnant women? I don't know. The hardest part is getting that first reply, so it was exciting. In addition to writing coding assessments for them, I interviewed with them not once, not twice, but 4 times. That's right, 4 whole interviews, and you want to know what I heard back from them after the 4th interview? Absolutely nothing. They ghosted me. I tried reaching out to them, but still nothing. At this point, I was just so sick of the dysfunction involved with working for these companies. So I said, screw it. I'm not working for anyone ever again. I don't care how much they pay. I don't care how much I struggle. I'd rather work 10 times harder and make 10 times less than be dicked around anymore. From here on out, I work for me. My time is mine and my labor is mine. Okay, I'm getting angry. Everything's gonna be okay. Let's just get back to the silly bean game. So, I take some much needed time off for October. I mostly rested and played old school RuneScape. I did literally every free quest the game had at the time, because it's at this point I'm trying to save any money I have. Here we go. My full-time game dev journey officially begins now in November 2021. After years of working on massive, ancient, and archaic websites, I can't tell you how good it felt just to work on my silly and simple little game. Honestly, I think my previous work gave me an immunity to game dev spaghetti code. It's nothing to me. Anyways, after a week, the game went from being brown to being purple. A lot of early concepts established here can still be seen in the final game. By the end of November, I have my first demo released. The game is now just called Bean. There's only one area that ends in a boss fight, but still, this is clearly the first iteration of the game that would one day become Garbanzo Quest. It's a story about homeless people stuck out in the cold, trying to get into this giant apartment building that's being guarded by a large corporation. Not far off from the story of the full game. Right before the new year, I finish another iteration on this demo and add a second area. My level design skills are still very nascent, but even now, you can get a whiff of the clever mechanic combination style that Garbanzo Quest loves to do. Lots of weird ideas too, like these banana peels that launch you into spikes and stuff. Moving into 2022, this iteration of the demo doesn't quite feel like it has enough, so I start getting these thoughts. What if it was Super Mario World? I love Super Mario World. It's my favorite game. It was only a matter of time until its influence crept into my first game. Anyone who knows Super Mario World will remember it for its beautiful overworld and branching secret paths that really helped to sell the idea of a grand adventure. With the game now being split into distinct levels, it's really easy to come up with specific ideas for each one. Like, this is the level that focuses on verticality, this one's a water level, and this is another water level, except it's split into blocks of floating water. This routine further influenced Garbanzo Quest's level design into what it is today. These first few levels went through a ton of changes, but the base mechanics remained the same. By May 2022, I have released the next version of the demo. This time I renamed it to Banzo Quest. Bean is not very web searchable, so I came up with something more unique. This build is mostly notable for its new overworld and level design, but 2-player co-op and the badge ability system are also really important inclusions. I don't know it yet, but at this point in the game's life, it stops experiencing so many big, drastic changes, and it really begins to become its true self. Yeah, there's still so much to figure out, but mostly from here on out, we're just going to be doing a ton of iteration and reimagining of the core ideas. For that reason, I'll be skipping ahead more often, because once you're past the early phases of game development, it's just a lot of slow and difficult work. So, let's fast forward to the next big release in September 2022. We're about a year in, and I've made the very naive decision to launch my game into Steam Early Access. Real quick, let's do a life savings check. Looks like I've spent a good $20,000 so far. Wow, funny how you never notice how expensive it is to be alive until you stop earning money. Luckily, my game is in Early Access now, so I can start making some of that back. Let's see how much the game made when launching into Early Access. Wow, a whole $149. That'll help. Inevitable financial ruin aside, the game itself is really starting to shape up. Most importantly, it's finally called Garbanzo Quest. I discovered that the word Banzo has ties to slavery in Brazil, so I felt it important to change the name. Moving on from that subject, the overworld's been rebuilt from the ground up to be more appealing, and we can see some of the narrative focal points starting to take shape. A lot of the levels and bosses in this build would still end up getting cut or drastically reimagined, as I'm still kind of a novice when it comes to game design. There's a lot of systems that will need to be reworked, such as the collectible system. In typical Super Mario World fashion, secrets are a really important part of this game, so that means hiding things that players will actually care about. Originally, I wanted every collectible itself to do something, like give you a new ability or unlock a new minigame. The problem with the minigames was that they themselves felt like they needed a reward for participating in them, so it really didn't help to solve that problem. And there was no way I was going to come up with enough special abilities to have something in every level in the game, so I split up the badges into collectible fragments. I also added different accessories that are unlocked with the same system. Badges and accessories ended up with different currencies because I didn't want you to feel like you had to make a decision between practical gameplay abilities and just having fun with dressing up your little guy. It'll be just over a year until the next version of the game is released. Garbanzo Quest will go through so many iterations on systems like the one just described. This last build and the next are very similar and also very different for that reason. It's literally all the same stuff, just reconceptualized and executed better. So, February 2024. That's when Garbanzo Quest version 0.7 is released. This version of the game really just is Garbanzo Quest. Until now, the game has just been some silly thing I've been toiling away at. But now, it's really starting to feel like something special. Looking back at the early stages, I can't help but think, what did I ever see in this? Like, look at this. It's crazy how far it's come. The game has so much polish and funny stuff in it now. All the levels that have made it so far are pretty competent. There's also like a story now. 2-player got a lot of improvements like the ghost system where even when you die you can still annoy your friend at least. I added my dog Frankie as a playable character because why not? I talk about Frankie a lot on my channel, but he's actually my second dog. I was originally going to add my first dog, Hudson, as well, but he died during development. It's okay, he was really old, but still now, it just kind of makes me sad looking at his little Hudson sprite, so I just never got around to it. Anyways, all that's left for Garbanzo Quest is lots and lots of content, polish, and playtesting. After 2 years into this game, I've got about 15,000 of the 50,000 I started with, so things are getting a bit down to the wire. Many months of polishing and playtesting later, September 2024 comes around, and that is the month that Garbanzo Quest is released for real. So, how did it go? Well, to put it simply, it went as poorly as possible without being a total failure. It's been a year since then and I'm still going at it, aren't I? How about I show you my bank statement from September 2024, the same month as Garbanzo Quest's release. Oof. From $50,000 all the way down to $6,000. That's cutting it close. Now I'm going to show you this month, or September 2025's bank statement. It's almost exactly the same. That's right, I've been hovering around this almost out of money range for a whole year. Really, I should be grateful that Garbanzo Quest is paying the bills, but you gotta admit, this looks a little scary. I believe my YouTube videos are the secret to sustaining my game dev career. All in all though, I'm feeling optimistic for the future. Really, I am. My next game, SuperDebt, already has more wishlists than Garbanzo Quest did on its release day, so at worst, I think SuperDebt will perform just as well as Garbanzo Quest did, which would be double money. Besides, it's not like SuperDebt's release day could be any worse than Garbanzo Quest's, right? Right? Thank you for joining me on my crazy game dev journey. I hope you learned something cool or just enjoyed hearing about my various self-inflicted struggles. If you'd like to learn more about the game's development, I've made other videos going deeper into different subjects. The one about Garbanzo Quest's release day is very painful, but also very educational. If you'd like to show your support, please consider becoming a patron. Patrons get exclusive early access to in-progress builds of my current project SuperDebt, and will have their names featured in the credits of my games. I also have a Discord where I post more frequent updates about my games and just generally chat about game development. Anyways, a big thank you to Mom and Dad, Rachel Feirman, ACarr, John Paul Gardner, DoujinShinji, Paco, Kent Reese, Quinton McCollum, YoshyFoods, Jake Horsley, Kurger, Tyler McBride, Zach, Vanglant, Vurj, Osto, Eva Pace, Schmole, Skyler Powers, Soupertonic, DonnaDeer, Nichil Stewart, Ommelete Studios, Patrick Holder, Ryan Neese, Paulo Leitão, Fat Pigeon, ThatOtherGalPerson, Nosa, ACarr, Alex Howe, berrylly, Rottady 01, Bazgrowl, Tony Youssef, Leaf Cloud, and Alex Wig. Alright, thanks for watching and see you next time.